Grand rising, grand arrival, grand return. Peace and blessings to the righteous and the repentant alike. I am Chief Sophia of the AMARUKHAN Band of Indians, and this is our Temple of Taurus video, which is ruled by Aphrodite. Taurus, the Titan related to Taurus, the Temple of Taurus, is Aphrodite. The Greek god is Aphrodite. The Roman equivalent is Venus. The Hindu equivalent is Parvati, and the 12 tribes, this would be Levi. And so Aphrodite is the goddess of love and beauty, and in her iconography, she's always attended by her son Cupid. So this would be like Mary and Joseph iconography, or like the Black Mary. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. So let's just get started. We're going to do like we do with all the other videos. I'm noticing that these ones that are the, what do I call them? The first four energies, cardinal energy. That's what I'm calling this. The cardinal energy are quite long. The Aries video I did was quite long. And so I expect that this is probably going to be just as long, so settle in. If you have a lot of Taurus energy, please go to the Wikipedia, read the whole Wikipedia for Aphrodite, and then do some research from there, because this is your lady if you have a lot of this in your chart. Now, I do have a little Taurus in my chart, so this is also one of my people, okay? Aphrodite is an ancient Greek goddess associated with love, lust, beauty, pleasure, passion, procreation, and as her synchronized Roman counterpart, Venus, desire, sex, fertility, prosperity, and victory. Aphrodite's major symbols include seashells, myrtles, roses, doves, sparrows, and swans. The cult of Aphrodite was largely derived from that of the Phoenician goddess Astarte, a cognate of the Eastern Semitic goddess Ishtar, whose cult was based on the Sumerian cult of Inanna. So listen, love and sex and desire and fertility is as old as time. That's what this is telling you. Like, this is an energy that morphs over time, that evolves over time, and is a cardinal, like I mentioned, energy. Just like wisdom is a cardinal energy, okay? Aphrodite's main cult centers were in Cytherea, Cyprus, Corinth. Corinth? Really? Wow. What did Paul's letter of the Corinthians, it's Paul? Yeah, his letter to the Corinthians, that's where he talks about love. That's why he said, holy smokes. All right. That's crazy. In Athens, her main festival was Aphrodisia, which was celebrated annually in midsummer. In Laconia, Aphrodite was worshipped as a warrior goddess. She was also the patron goddess of prostitutes, an association which led early scholars to proposed the concept of sacred prostitution in Greco-Roman culture, an idea which is now generally seen as erroneous, which we know is not true, actually, because what's his face? Samson, that's what he went to. He went to a sacred prostitute, okay? A major goddess in the Greek pantheon, Aphrodite is featured prominently in ancient Greek literature. According to many sources, like Homer's Iliad and Sappho's Ode to Aphrodite, she is a daughter of Zeus and Dione. In Hesiod's Theogony, however, Aphrodite is born off the coast of Cythera from the foam produced by Uranus' genitals, which his son Kronos had severed and thrown into the sea. So basically, you have Athena, who is of questionable birth, right? You have now Aphrodite of questionable birth. Artemis also from it's not quite the same questionable birth. She was a twin, obviously, born before Apollo, but still a little questionable, okay? A little bit, not as questionable as this, because she helped her mother birth her brother, her twin. That's kind of a little bit, okay? In his Symposium, Plato asserts that these two origins belong to separate entities. Aphrodite Urania, a transcendent heavenly Aphrodite, who partakes not of the female, but only of the male, with Plato describing her as inspiring love between men, but having nothing to do with the love of women, and Aphrodite Pandemos, Aphrodite common to all the people, Plato described as a wanton to contrast her with the virginal Aphrodite Urania, who did not engage in sexual acts at all. Pandemos inspired love between men and women, unlike her older counterpart. The epithet Aphrodite Aria, the warlike, reveals her contrasting nature in ancient Greek religion. Aphrodite had many other epithets. Wow. Aphrodite had many other epithets, each emphasizing a different aspect of the same goddess or used by a different local cult. She was also known as Cytherea, Lady of Cythera, Cyprus, Lady of Cyprus, because both locations claim to be her place of birth. Sappho's Ode to Aphrodite is one of the oldest poems dedicated to the goddess, survives from the Archaic period, nearly complete. In Greek mythology, Aphrodite was married to Hephaestus, the god of fire, blacksmith, and metalworking. Aphrodite was frequently unfaithful to him and had many lovers. In the Odyssey, she is caught in the act of adultery with Ares, the god of war. In the first Homeric hymn to Aphrodite, she seduces the mortal shepherd Anchises after Zeus made her fall in love with him. Aphrodite was also the surrogate mother and the lover of the mortal shepherd Adonis, who is killed by a wild boar. Along with Athena and Hera, Aphrodite is one of the goddesses whose feud resulted in the beginning of the Trojan War and plays a major role throughout the Iliad. Aphrodite has been featured in Western art as a symbol of female beauty and has appeared in numerous works of Western literature. She is a major deity in modern neo-pagan religions, including the Church of Aphrodite, Wicca, and Hellenism. Aphrodite comes from the word sea foam, risen from the foam. That's what they say. All right. But again, they never know when any of this stuff comes. I am so sorry about all this congestion. I don't know where it come from, okay? But I do notice whenever I'm talking about stuff that's really important, they try to congest me up so I don't want to talk and I don't want to do it. I want to wait till the congestion is gone, and I will not do that, okay? We have to get through this information because there's more information we got to move into. All right, mythology. Aphrodite is usually said to have been born near her chief center of worship, Paphos, on the island of Cyprus, which is why she is called sometimes Cyprian. There's a Saint Cyprian. Saint Cyprian, if I'm not mistaken, hold on, y'all. I remember talking about Saint Cyprian. I remember his symbol. Saint Cyprian was a magician, right? Cyprian and Justina. He was a magician. Anyway, it's just so obviously he was working with Aphrodite, which makes sense, especially in the poetic works of Sappho. The sanctuary of Aphrodite, Paphia, marking her birthplace, was a place of pilgrimage in the ancient world for centuries. Other versions of her myth have her born near the island of Cytherea, hence another of her name, Cytherea. Cytherea was a stopping place for trade and culture between Crete and Peloponnese, so these stories may preserve traces of migration of Aphrodite's cult from the Middle East to mainland Greece. Why do all these people go to Greece? And then, if Greece is so great, why do all these Grecian people coming to America? Just a question. According to the version of her birth recounted by Hesiod in his Theogony, Cronos severed Uranus' genitals and threw them behind him into the sea. The foam from his genitals gave rise to Aphrodite, hence her name, which Hesiod interprets as foam arisen, while the giants, the Erinyes or the Furies, and the Mylae emerged from drops of his blood. Hesiod states that the genitals were carried over the sea a long time, and a white foam arose from the immortal flesh. With it a girl grew. After Aphrodite was born from the sea foam, she washed up to shore. That's Onoskelis' story. Except Onoskelis was born in a cave. And now they're saying Aphrodite came from the water. She washed up to shore in the presence of the other gods. Hesiod's account of Aphrodite's birth, following Uranus' castration, is probably derived from the Song of Kumarbi, an ancient Hittite epic poem which the god Kumarbi overthrows his father Adu. I'm so sorry. The god of the sky, and bites off his genitals, causing him to become pregnant and give birth to Anu's children, which include Ishtar and her brother Teshub, the Hittite storm god. In the Iliad, Aphrodite is described as the daughter of Zeus and Dione. Dion's name appears to be a female cognate of Dios and Dion, the oblique forms of the name Zeus. Zeus and Dion shared a cult at Dodona in northwestern Greece. In Theogony, Hesiod describes Dion as an Oceanid, but Apollodorus made her the 13th Titan, child of Gaia and Uranus. Aphrodite is consistently portrayed as a nubile, infinitely desirable adult having no childhood. She is often depicted nude. In the Iliad, Aphrodite is the apparently unmarried consort of Ares, the god of war, and the wife of Hephaestus, is a different goddess named Charis. Likewise, Likewise, in Hesiod's Theogony, Aphrodite is unmarried, and the wife of Hephaestus is Aglalia, the youngest of 3 Charites. In Book 8 of the Odyssey, however, the blind singer Demodocus describes Aphrodite as the wife of Hephaestus and tells how she committed adultery with Ares during the Trojan War. The sun god Helios saw Aphrodite and Ares having sex in Hephaestus' bed and warned Hephaestus, who fashioned a fine, near-invisible net. The next time Aphrodite and Ares had sex together, the net trapped them both. Hephaestus brought all the gods to the bedchamber to laugh at the captured adulterers. But Apollo, Hermes, and Poseidon had sympathy for Ares, and Poseidon agreed to pay Hephaestus for Ares' release. Aphrodite returned to her temple in Cyprus, where she was attended by the Charites. This narrative probably originated as a Greek folktale independent from the Odyssey. Okay? They made it up. They made it up because they didn't want her having 2 husbands. Okay? Unacceptable to these patrilineals. Alright. Alright, let's see. We talked about a lot of her stuff. Let's talk about her what is this? In Hesiod's Works and Days, Zeus orders Aphrodite to make Pandora, the first woman, physically beautiful and sexually attractive, so men will love to embrace her. Aphrodite spills grace over Pandora's head and equips her with painful desire and knee-weakening anguish. Aphrodite's attendants, Pythio, the Charites, and Hore, adorn Pandora with finery and jewelry. Like Pandora's bracelet? Okay. After the deaths of their parents, the orphan Cleophatra, along with Merope, were raised by Aphrodite. The other Olympian goddesses also blessed the girls with gifts and blessings. Hera gave them beauty, Artemis high stature, and Athena taught them women's crafts. When Cleophatra and Merope were of age, Aphrodite consulted with Zeus to secure happy marriages for them. According to one myth, Aphrodite aided Hippomenes, a noble youth who wished to marry Atalanta, a maiden who was renowned throughout the land for her beauty, but who refused to marry any man unless he could outrun her in a foot race. Atalanta was exceedingly swift runner, and she beheaded all of the men who lost her. Aphrodite gave Hippomenes 3 golden apples from the garden of Hesperides and instructed him to toss them in front of Atalanta as he raised her. Hippomenes obeyed Aphrodite's order, and Atalanta, seeing the beautiful golden fruits, bent down to pick up each one, allowing Hippomenes to outrun her. In the version of the story from Ovid's Metamorphoses, Hippomenes forgets to repay Aphrodite for her aid, so she causes the couple to become inflamed with lust while they are staying in this temple of Cybele. The couple desecrate the temple by having sex in it, leading Cybele to turn them into lions as punishment. Lions? Lions? Why not turn them into tigers? Why did they turn them into lions? You know, the Lion of Judah? You know, anyway. Not gonna do it. I want to, but I'm not. Judgment of Paris and the Trojan War. I think this is probably the same. No, let's read it. It's not that long. The main judgment of Paris is mentioned briefly in the Iliad, but is described in depth in the epitome of the Cypria, a lost poem of the epic cycle, which records that all the gods and goddesses, as well as various mortals, were invited to the marriage of Peleus and Thetis, the eventual parents of Achilles. Only Eris, the goddess of discord, was not invited. She was annoyed at this, so she arrived with a golden apple inscribed with the word Caleste, which is the fairest, which she threw among the goddesses. Aphrodite, Hera, and Athena all claim to be the fairest, thus the rightful owner of the apple. The goddesses choose to place the matter before Zeus, who, not wanting to favor one of the goddesses, put the choice into the hands of Paris, a Trojan prince. After bathing in the spring of Mount Ida, where Troy is situated, the goddesses appear before Paris for his decision. Okay, let me read that. All three goddesses were ideally beautiful, and Paris could not decide between them, so they resorted to bribes. Hera tried to bribe Paris with power over all Asia and Europe. Athena offered wisdom, fame, and glory in battle, and Aphrodite promised Paris that, if he were to choose her as the fairest, she would let him marry the most beautiful woman on earth. This woman was Helen, who was already married to King Menelaus of Sparta. Paris selected Aphrodite and awarded her the apple. The other two goddesses were enraged and, as a direct result, sided with the Greeks during the Trojan War. Aphrodite plays an important and active role throughout the entirety of Homer's Iliad. In Book 3, she rescues Paris from Menelaus after he foolishly challenges him to a one-on-one duel. She then appears to Helen in the form of an old woman and attempts to persuade her to have sex with Paris, reminding her of his physical beauty and athletic prowess. Helen immediately recognizes Aphrodite by her beautiful neck, perfect breasts, and flashing eyes, and sharply chides the goddess. Aphrodite rebukes Helen, reminding her that if she vexes her, she will punish her just as much as she has favored her already. Helen demurely follows Aphrodite's command, so she strong-armed her. You can't do, again, this is why you don't take favors from the gods. You don't take favors from them. You tell them what you want and they do them. You don't take favors from them. You don't take their ideas. You have your own ideas as a human. You set the tone. You do not let these gods set the tone for you. You do not worship these gods. They run the temple. You respect them. But you do not turn your life over to them and say, I will, whatever you vow, do it on a vow day. It's important to do vows on vow days. What you can't do is make vows to these gods and then not deliver. You're entering a contract with them. Make sure that you set the terms of the contract. That's all I'm saying. Don't let them set the terms of the contract. In Book 5, Aphrodite charges into the battle to rescue her son Aeneas from the Greek hero Diomedes. Diomedes recognizes Aphrodite as a weakling goddess and, thrusting a spear under Athena's guidance, nicks her wrist through her ambrosial robe. Aphrodite borrows Ares' chariot to ride back to Mount Olympus, where she meets Dion. Aphrodite complains to her mother about Diomedes' handiwork, and Dione consoles her daughter with examples of gods wounded by mortals and notes that Diomedes is risking his life by fighting against the gods. In fact, Diomedes subsequently fought by Apollo and Ares, but lived to an old age with his wife Aegilia. However, took other lovers with the help of vengeful Aphrodite and never permitted him to return home to Argos after the war. Dione heals Aphrodite's wounds while Zeus chides her for putting herself in danger, reminding her her specialty is love, not war. According to Walter Burkett, this scene directly parallels a scene from Tablet 6 of the Epic of Gilgamesh, in which Ishtar, Aphrodite's Akkadian precursor, cries to her mother Antu after the hero Gilgamesh rejects her sexual advances, but she is mildly rebuked by her father Anu. In Book 14 of the Iliad, during the Dios Apante episode, Aphrodite lends her Kestos Hemas to Hera for the purpose of seducing Zeus and distracting him from the battlefield so the gods can interfere without the fear of Zeus. In the Thaumaterga, Book 21, Aphrodite again enters the battlefield to carry Ares away after he is wounded by Athena. So listen. We do not allow these guys to interfere with the life of humans. Like, this is, especially Aphrodite. Aphrodite is a goddess of love, not war. We want her to do her thing with us, right? Within the constellation, within the confines of her temple, without causing a bunch of unnecessary crap to the humans, right? And the way that you work with Aphrodite is you acknowledge her and you do things that are within her realm to make pledges to her for those things that are within her realm. Don't be asking Aphrodite to fight the war for you. That's not her job. Don't be asking Aphrodite to do propaganda for you. That's not her job. Her job is love, to make people love themselves, to make people love one another. That's her job. So when you engage the Temple of Taurus, understand that you're going in there for love. And if you don't do it for the love, you will never be happy. You're not going to have happiness from that. Like, you have to do it for love. And all Tauruses would be remiss not to understand that. You have to do it for the love. If you're not doing it for the love of loving, don't do it at all. Don't even engage it, especially when it comes to another person. Like, don't do it. Like, you're just going to be miserable. So I hope this is helpful. Again, my apologies for all my congestion. Shalom, peace, and blessings, and we'll see you in the next video.